Well, again, good evening to everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome each and every one of you, and I want to thank you for taking the time to come onto the call to enrich your own lives and to give me an opportunity to share what I believe is invaluable information with you. Tonight, I'm going to take you on a journey for the next hour or so, and we're going to be talking about feeling better, and that is feeling better than you've ever felt before, thinking better, thinking clearer than you've thought before, and living better than you've lived before. And we're going to do that by unlocking our God given potential, and we're going to do that through mind body wellness so that we all can potentially come to a place where we can love the life that we live. This, of course, is a very broad area, so it's just an overview of a concept, of a pathway, of a process that we all would want to consider in order to feel better, think better, and live a better life. When we are talking about unlocking human potential, we're talking about tapping into that innate capacity that we all have where we can do far better and achieve far more than we might have been able up to this point. And why through mind body wellness? Because health really is the precursor to, or you could say it's the foundation for being able to live effectively in every area and on every level of life. We may get a different perspective, a different vantage point on how to view health and how to walk in a more healthy life with the information we're going to speak about. So I know that you're on the call tonight because you are hoping to hear something that will in some way enrich your life. So whether it is that you may be dealing with an illness that you want to get over, one that you're wondering if you can even get over it, whether it is that you're looking to live a better quality of life, be it better relationships, stronger relationships, more meaningful relationships. Maybe that you want to live a more prosperous life financially and otherwise. Maybe you want to have a better and a more enriching spiritual relationship. Whatever it is your interest may be, on this call, you're going to find a key that's going to help us to be able to really feel, think, and live better in every area and on every level of life. I take the avenue of health and wellness because that really is foundational to being able to live our very best life in every area and on every level. I want to begin by looking at two phenomenon as it relates to the area of health and wellness that we may be familiar with. And I'm doing this because I need to create a backdrop and a context of understanding, because the value of what we're going to be talking about, which is mind body wellness, and the way how it impacts our entire life, it is worth us creating this context of understanding so we can appreciate the value of it. The first phenomenon I want to share with you is what they call spontaneous healing. Some people refer to it as spontaneous remission. I have put just a few resources here for your own reference in case you want to, if you're like me and you want to investigate and look at it. These are books that I have looked at, I've read going back as far as 20 years ago. Spontaneous healing just means healing without a cause. And it's not healing that suddenly happens, even though there are those cases, but this is healing that takes place with people who have had life-threatening illnesses, like incurable conditions, and given short times to live. And the books that I have listed there, they all go through all documented science and real life experiences of people who have gone through. There are tens of thousands of these cases all over the world that's been studied. And these are people who, because they are faced with a life-threatening illness with limited time to live, they all came to a point of examining themselves, looking at their lives, reevaluating priorities, um, um, considering how they had lived their lives, and recognizing that life now has become so precious to them that they begin to look at no longer living based on the expectations of people, trying to live by their values and their truth more, trying to be more authentic, and so on. But the illness brought them to a point where they begin to reevaluate life differently, develop new perceptions, begin to think of themselves. They cultivate a new sense of identity and how they interact with people, and their life go through this change. And as they embark on this new journey of life, tumors in the brain go away, organs that were dysfunctional begin to function again, and these so-called medically incurable or terminal illnesses, they eventually go away. And this happens over time. And there are documented case studies all over the world, and those are some resources there that you can look at. But I want you to think about that for a minute, in that these are people that were medically diagnosed with incurable and terminal illnesses that through changes in their life, and why they call it spontaneous, meaning without a cause, is because they did not follow any particular regime, any particular program, any particular course of treatment. They just went through changes of how they live, think, and interact with life, and develop a new sense of well-being. And through that journey, their conditions eventually disappeared. The other one I want to tell you about, which most people are familiar with, is what they call the placebo effect. This one, people tend to treat this as though it's a negative. And we are all familiar with this through medical science, where you have two control groups, and one is given the latest, greatest medicine, the other one is given an inert material, but they're convinced that it is the same. And research says that 70% of the people that got the placebo got the same results as those who actually got the medicine. And they say, well, it's all in their mind. And indeed, it is all in their mind. But we treat it as though it's a negative, as though there's something wrong with it. But it just shows the capacity that's within us. Now, some of the resources that I've put there for you can go and do some research. And there are lots of medical and research papers that has been done on studying the science between the placebo effect. And what they have found out, there are two sciences that come together, one called epigenetics, and the other one is psychoneuroimmunology, which talks about the mind and body and how they interact. And throughout the research, they have discovered that thoughts and emotions have greater impact on the DNA, on genetic expression, on our cellular function and activity far more than we know. So we understand a lot more today about spontaneous healing and the placebo effect and why people can recover from incurable illnesses. And in fact, one placebo control study that they did, which stood out to me, which I'll just tell you about very quickly, is that they took 3 patients that had arthritic conditions and needed knee replacement. 2 of them had the surgery, had the knee replacement, and the third one, they just made an incision on the knee, stitched it back up, and told the person that the surgery was a success, and that over the course of the next year, they'll be dancing again. They will have to go through the usual physiotherapy and the rest of it. After 1 year, when they reevaluated the 3 patients, the progress that the 2 had the surgery had made, which was good, having had the surgery, and the third one that didn't have the surgery had the same results a year later than the ones who had the knee replacement. Now, that just goes to show over the course of that year, that person, their body rebuilt the cartilage, their body repaired itself only because that person believed that they had a successful surgery and they went about the whole process of change, embracing it, and their body corrected. I say all that just to drive home the point of this brain-body connection, this mind-body connection. It is so key, not just to how our bodies function and health and wellness, not just the physical component of it. That's one expression of it. But mind-body wellness expresses itself through every facet of our lives. It shows up in our body because that is where, because it's mind and body connection, it shows up in our bodies first, but it expresses itself outwardly in our lives, in our relationships, and our ability to live effectively. So I start with this just for us to capture the gravity and the importance of when there is harmony between the mind and body. Not only can we recover from any illness, and it doesn't matter what it is, not only that, but we can live a disease-free life. Now, I understand that that's a tall order that I'm talking about, but the most important aspect to not just health and healing, but to living effectively, period, is mind-body balance, and that's where we're going with it. And I just wanted to drive that home. We all are meant and designed to live a life that is abundant and successful on every level. That's our birthright. Our potential to live this life is inherent to us. The potential of anything is inherent to its design. Our human design, which is body, soul, spirit, or body, mind, spirit, our potential is inherent in our divine design. We are all spiritual beings living in this physical experience, but our potential resides in our spiritual nature. And our spiritual nature is calibrated to spiritual qualities like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, self-control. This is our natural nature. This is inherent to who we are. We naturally would live like this if all was in balance, if body, soul, and spirit was all in harmonious alignment, and there was no fracture in our being, we would naturally live this way. Now, I also want to say that there is a flow to life that ensures that we would always succeed in life. Life is actually designed in a way to guarantee our success. We're not going to get into that. It is why the universe works the way it is, why the cycles of nature work the way they do. It is why when you put a seed in the ground, it will just begin to spring. It is why when an egg is fertilized in the womb, a magical process begins that science still don't understand. We know what's happening, but we don't understand how it's happening and how it knows what to do, what it's doing. And 9 months later, they become this intricate design of a human form that we still can't even figure out how the whole thing works. But there is a flow to life, and it's a creative order that governs all existence. And because of who we are and how we are designed, if we live by our true potential and our true spiritual potentials aligns with the divine order, that creative flow that governs life, life unfolds beautifully for us. Now, I understand that what I'm saying is just an overview. It's difficult to capture, but these are things that I'm going to be unfolding throughout the workshops that's going to be coming up in the very near future. But my point that I want to make about this as it relates to mind-body wellness and where we run into the trouble is that this flow of life, by design, it unfolds through a continual flow of opposites. There's always a contrast in life. Every hour of every day, maybe every minute of every day, life is always presented us with a contrast that we always have to be choosing between opposites. Choice becomes then the mechanism by which we navigate the flow of life. And that's really important for us to really get a hold of, because this is something that we are doing every single day and every moment and every day. And this is really where we either flow or we go out of alignment. Because the challenge is we grew up in a world and we are acculturated by society in such a way that we begin to learn to choose against our true inner nature, our true inner well-being, the true nature of who we are. We learn to choose against that from a very early age. We won't get into that now, but I believe everybody can relate to what I'm saying. We begin to lose the sense of our true identity and truly who we are, and we take up a false sense of self. People call it the ego, but it comes from making choices that contradict our values. Excuse me. So we know what is good for us. We know what is right to do. We know what is in our best interest. But for whatever reason, because of societal expectations, because of wanting to please people, because of fear of what people would say, a whole host of reasons, we choose to go against our own values. Whenever we go, whenever we know better, but choose to not prioritize it and not do better, we create a fracture between mind body. That mind body harmony goes out of balance. Our actions being done by our body and our knowing in our minds, when they can't come together and they're going in two different directions, that is the beginning of creating and weakening this fracture, this natural balance between mind and body. This is where it happens. And so we create this mind body dissonance, which is a disharmony, not a disconnect, because mind and body will never be disconnected, but they will be disharmonious in how they function. And this is where our spiritual potential, this is where it sinks into the background. This is we're no longer aware of our spiritual identity because we have taken on the identity that's been conditioned by and acculturated by the world. And it happens, this fractured view of life and this fractured view of self happens because we knowingly choose against ourselves. We choose to violate what we know to be good and what we know to be right. And we begin to live inauthentic lives. This is where we find that it's difficult to manage our thinking. It's difficult to live without fear. We live reflexively. Our emotions, our thoughts, our minds, this is where we have our struggles in life across the board. And a whole lot could be said about this. But because of this fracture, because of this misalignment, we don't make it to a life that's healthy and a life that's abundant as it's naturally meant to be. It gets split into two halves. It's one thing that expresses itself two ways: a reduced quality of life and a struggling standard of living. Sickness and disease on one side, and we struggle with lack on the other side. There are two sides of one coin. You and I are going about our lives every day, and we're trying to make the best of life. We're trying to make a good living. We're all struggling with some level of sickness and disease. It may just be symptoms of various types before it becomes a full-fledged disease. We're all struggling financially, relationally, spiritually. We're all struggling in our lives to live our best life. And this is the key right here: mind-body dissonance. A fracture that comes from us not honoring ourselves, loving ourselves, believing in ourselves, and living a way. This is what the people who go through spontaneous healing, this is what they rediscover. And this is the life they begin to walk into. So I'm saying to us that when we prioritize outer influences over the values of our inner well-being, we create this disharmony of life, and it manifests as what we call stress and negative emotions. When we go through life, when we go into life, you go through your day tomorrow, look and see how we respond to life. And it's because of this imbalance. But when we realign our inner values with the creative principles of divine law, we are restoring that inner harmony of mind and body. And it manifests as a life of peace, joy, and abundance in all forms. Now, there are principles that validate and lead us into all of this. We're not going to get into that tonight. My overview tonight is for us to capture the relevance, the gravity, the importance of cultivating mind-body harmony. Because sickness and disease is just one expression of it, and the fact that we struggle with life is the other side of the same coin. And so this is how it manifests throughout the world. The World Health Organization calls it the global burden of disease. What is it? The whole world is suffering from lifestyle-induced chronic diseases. And it's because of this mind-body dissonance, or this mind-body in disharmony that we have in ourselves. It's naturally lose that balance. And most of the world is suffering from it. And our approach has been to treat this outcome. Sickness and disease is an outcome, a reflection of living imbalanced lives. It's not that we're going through life and oops, this thing just get me and I now feel sick. It doesn't work that way. We earn our illnesses by our thoughts, by our emotions, by how we respond to life, how we respond to each other, how we engage with this thing called life. And it happens, and we are not effective at doing it because of this imbalance, because we have learned from a very early age how not to honor ourselves. We are more concerned about what people think than what we think about our own selves. And you know what I'm talking about. So as long as we keep focusing on how to fix disease, and I hope I'm leading into something that I hope we will get it. If we keep focusing on my body doesn't feel well, and I don't want to get sick, and I'm afraid of developing a cognitive decline as I get older or developing, if we think of disease in this way, we will always be going in the wrong direction and we'll always be struggling. True healing is internal. True healing comes from within. Now, this is a different way of looking at it, and it takes a little while before we can capture it, but we possess everything that we have. So it's not about what do I take? It is how do I live? How do I live to improve it? How do I live to prevent it? Because the principles and the rudiments of how I need to cultivate my life in order to live that way is the very thing that doesn't only prevent it or make me recover from it, but it's the very thing that will make life successful and fulfilling on every other level. So this picture that we see, which is a global picture, it's a global pandemic, far greater than the pandemic that we had a few years ago. This lifestyle disease pandemic is flipped on the other side with an economic pandemic where everybody is struggling financially to make life work. We're struggling relationally. They have more social divisions and social polarizations than ever before. And it all tracks right back to this mind-body dissonance. Sickness and disease is just the expression of it, the reflection of it. People say to me, but as you go through life and you get older, you're bound to get sick. That is a thinking that comes out of that limited way, that fractured way of perceiving life. Aging is inevitable, disease is not. See, the body, that's the vessel through which we will experience life, but the mind is the gateway that shapes those experiences. And together, when they're in harmony, they create that balance that we need to unlock the inherent potential, which is in our spiritual essence. You see, here's how it is. When mind and body can come back into that place of harmony on one, who we truly are, our true spiritual nature, it begins to emerge, it begins to emanate. We don't need to know how to do it. It is our true essence of being. It begins to emanate. And we begin to experience life on a very different level. But what does this look like? Just briefly, because people have asked me, someone asked, what does that look like? When you say body, mind, spirit in balance, it means that how we think, how we speak, how we act is one and the same. If it is, suppose our thoughts were projected on a screen above our heads. People would see that how we think is not really how we speak and how we act at all. There's this fracture, but when we think, speak, and act, and it's all one and the same, that's alignment. That's wholeness. And that's where we want to get to. And we can do that and we can cultivate that. Is it easy? Not necessarily easy, but there are things that we can do that we can help ourselves. So let me help us to understand how it all comes together and how it works. The key to this mind-body balance is neurology. And I'm saying this because we have the responsibility and we have the wherewithal where we can step into it and do something about it. We are not victims of it. We are masters of our destiny. We are masters of our life. We're not victims of disease and victims of a struggling life. We're the ones that hold the key and the potential. We have the potential. We just have to learn how to unlock this potential. Okay, so the brain and the nervous system provides the communication between mind and body. That's neurology. That's the science of the brain and the nervous system and how it interacts. The mind and body converge in neurology. This is the control center that is processing and transmitting information for all functions of mind and body. This is all thoughts, emotions, perceptions, beliefs, aspects of the mind, and all physiological functions of the body is all being processed by what we'll call this the hardware. I'm going to use a little bit of computer terminology. It's all being processed by the hardware. Not two different things. Mind and body, physiological function, thoughts and emotions are all being processed by neurology. For the body, it is being processed by what we call genetic programming. We call this the operating system. This is a pre-installed programs encoded in the brain that is governing how everything is functioning in our bodies right now. This is 95% of physiological function. Only 5% of physiological function is in our hands. 95% of what's going on inside our body is all automatic. And it's being run by genetic programming, which is pre-installed on the hardware. And this is the operating system. This is unique to everybody. No two people have the same genetic programming. No two people have the same DNA and fingerprint, and this is just like that. This is what runs the entire physiology, and it's happening automatically. How it is happening? It is happening through what is called signaling. It is like a Wi-Fi signal. The information that's being transmitted from the hardware through the operating system, it's just information that's being processed by the brain and passing information down. And right now, you and I are sitting here and trillions of cells are carrying out millions of functions and we are not involved. That's all happening automatically. Then there's another set of programming. We call it lifestyle programming. And this is the software that is installed on the hardware and it comes through our life experiences. This is acquired patterns of thinking, emotions, habits that create our life experiences. And these, as we grow from a child growing up through, these habits of living, they become encoded into the brain. And they can either modify, enhance, or disrupt the pre-installed hardware of the genetic programming. You see, the software must be compatible with the operating system. If the software programs are not compatible with the operating system, it's going to create a conflict. And that is exactly what happens because of how we've been conditioned. So when an inauthentic lifestyle conditioned by negative thinking patterns, suppressed emotions and traumas, chronic stress, and unhealthy habits, it will disrupt the genetic neural programming because the genetic pre-installed programming runs on order, balance, harmony, integration, unity. It's one system. But when we introduce frequencies that are incompatible with the signaling and it disrupts, and so we end up with mind-body imbalances. Disrupted neural programs create mind-body imbalances, reflecting that imbalance throughout all the biological systems. This, when we say mind-body imbalance, what we're not talking about a problem with the brain. The brain doesn't develop a problem. How the brain is processing the information and distributing the information into the system, that gets disrupted. The information, the transmission of information, that is disrupted because it's all happening through electrical and electrochemical signals. Thoughts, emotions, beliefs, perceptions, they're all signals as well, but they're incompatible signals, so it throws the whole system off. Now, if we can regain mind-body harmony, the body's innate system to heal and regenerate and repair, it is released. And I say released because it never ever stops. It gets obstructed because the signaling is not clear. It's like a Wi-Fi signal. It's not, the instructions are not being clearly sent to the organs, to the systems, to the cells to run optimally. The signals are disrupted because we have introduced incompatible signals in the way we're thinking, the way we are responding to life, when it's supposed to be on the positive side of peace, joy, love, etc. And those incompatible signals, and I hope you can get the picture, it's that simple, but it's also that hard because to change our patterns of thinking and how we respond emotionally to life is not the easiest thing in the world to do. And it's, in fact, it can be very, very difficult, and it takes a lot of time with cultivating self to do it. But once we can bring mind and body back into harmony, the signaling becomes free. The body which runs itself, heals itself, repairs itself, optimizes everything. It's designed that way. We never have to worry about how not to get sick and how to recover. It happens all the time, and it's happening automatically. In fact, it's healing us of conditions every day that we're not even aware of. That's happening naturally. But when we bring the balance back, it gets released. The obstructions are moved, and everything begins to get optimized. Conditions begin to change. And not only our body begins to feel better and our minds begin to work better, but we start to look at life differently. Just that alignment creates a different outlook on life. And we begin to respond to life. We begin to look at ourselves. It begins a whole cascade of changes that can lead us into a life that is way too much to even get into today. But when it comes to addressing these, the current healthcare model does not address these imbalances. So we could have mind-body imbalances that expresses itself as things that people experience every day: poor sleep, low energy, aches and pains, weak immunity, chronic stress, poor mobility, low fitness. These are things that the average person are living with every single day. And we don't think anything of it. And what we do for it is that we look for substances, whether it be pharmaceuticals or whether it be over the counter or whether it be holistic medicines, whether it be natural therapies. But the solutions that we have today, which can save our life and has its place, and it is needful in our society, but it will not restore health, nor will it prevent disease. And in fact, it can introduce secondary and tertiary problems that can create greater cascades of problems down the road, not to mention it takes away all financial resources to even live a better quality of life. So the current solutions, while helpful, we need a different solution if we're going to live more healthily lives, the goal being that we want to be able to live better on every level as it's designed to be. And these current solutions, they often come with contraindications and side effects and different types of risk and difficulties and challenges in being able to stay consistent and to use them effectively. All in all, this is what we have within our entire healthcare model when it comes to dealing with illnesses of the body. I just want to remind us, the illnesses of the body is not our problem. They're just a reflection of a deeper problem. And if we keep focusing on the illness as the problem and not just an outcome of the problem, we're going to keep going in the wrong direction. We're going to keep approaching life in a way that is going to rob us of our potential to live our best life. Okay, so we need to get the whole world needs a new approach, one that gets to the root of the problem. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Albert Einstein said that, and it is true. Now, along my course of my own journey, I've retired from clinical practice, been in clinical practice for 25 years as a naturopathic doctor, retired 4 years ago, and I've shifted into a broader perspective of health and wellness. From this perspective, helping people and working with people in dealing with themselves. And so they can get to a place of not just recovery, but just living life better. I'm not concerned about the illness you have. I'm not concerned what name they call it. I'm not concerned what timeline they give on it, because none of that really matters. What matters is how you view yourself, how you view life, how you interact, how you manage in life. If we can get a handle on that, understanding that at the root of it is this fracture that happens between our outer and our inner world. If we can work with that, I'm telling you, miracles begin to happen. Myself being a recipient of the very same thing, which is why I can get very passionate about this sometimes. So along my journey, I came across a gentleman who was thinking very different to the rest of the world, and I began to look closer at what he was doing. There's a gentleman, his name is Jay Dhaliwal. He's the founder and the CEO of a company called the Super Patch Company. When I was introduced to what he was doing, he was merging state-of-the-art science with a holistic approach to well-being, not just wellness, by supporting the body's innate healing capacity by naturally restoring and optimizing mind-body balance. That caught my attention because To me, I've been working with mind-body integration and balance for years. And so when somebody says that they're going to use technology to optimize mind-body balance so that the body can function better, I was very curious as to how would that work without you engaging in a process of self-cultivation in there. And I heard his story that it started out from a very young age where his mother suffered with multiple sclerosis, a neurodegenerative condition. And he was very passionate about trying to find a solution, only to recognize that there is no cure in medicine for such neurodegenerative conditions. But it took him years of research, and he spent $25 million after 15 years of research and development and going and getting together with the most brilliant of minds in neuroscience to discover a simple thing that reveals the marvel of the human body. And it's so simple that it actually can go over our heads. And why it can go over our heads because of the simplicity is because we are conditioned to think that health is about the body. We are conditioned to think that healing and recovering from illness is an external factor. We're conditioned to think that. So we can easily miss it. But because of what he's discovered and recognizing the way the world looks at it, he made a statement that was very passionate when I heard him speak. He said, I'm here to build something generational that will transform the world. Anything else is a waste of my time. And after meeting this gentleman, after looking at and testing his technology, I found what I call a bridge that could take us into harnessing mind-body wellness, not just so we can feel better in our bodies, not just so our bodies will run better and we can recover from illness, not just for that, but because of what it does to the mind. You see, neurology processes both physiology and psychology, both thoughts and emotions, and how the body is functioning. When you start to bring balance to mind and body, sure enough, the body is going to start to respond and work better. But our mind begins to work better as well. We begin to start thinking differently. We begin to start, and a different awareness and a different sense of well-being begins to emerge. It is so unfamiliar to the average person that they're not even sure what to do with it. But now we have to learn of how to nurture that. How is it? How simple is it? It is this simple. When our eyes are not functioning properly and our vision becomes impaired, something as simple as a pair of glasses, we put them on. It's a drug-free solution. It's a non-invasive solution. Puts nothing in your body, does nothing to your body, but it improves my vision right away. Instantly, my vision is improved just by putting on a pair of spectacles. It is as simple as that. In a very similar manner, when the brain's neural programs are disrupted and go out of balance, by simply applying what they call a super patch to the skin. It's a 100% drug-free, non-invasive device that you just stick it on the skin and instantly your neural programs, the signaling comes right back into balance, and right away your body starts functioning differently. And with continuous use, as the signals and the brain goes through its neuroplastic changes where it begins to rewire itself to the new balance, a whole different level of mentality begins to emerge with repeated use. I've never, in my 30 years of healthcare, come across something that is so simple, so non-invasive, that actually is this effective in changing and helping us to harness our lives. It is this simple. This is one of their super patches here. Imagine this. It's like a Band-Aid. You peel it off. I don't know if you can see. It has like just little ridges on it. You just put it on the skin. I don't know if you can see that. And that's it. Instantly, it starts to recalibrate the neural pathways that are not signaling right, that's not sending the messages correctly to my body. Instantly, it starts to come into line and it starts sending correct messages to my body. How long does it take? Seconds. Instantly, it happens. Let me show you just about a 2-minute video of Mr. Dhaliwal doing a live experiment with the patches that you get to see. It's called vibrotactile trigger technology, and it's the only technology in the world that's harnessing the neural haptic system of the body to do this.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay Dhaliwal. I'm the CEO and founder of Vox Life and the creator of Vox Life HPT. Today, I want to talk to you about our Harmony Neuro Patch. And what this product does is actually stimulates receptors on our skin, sending a neurosignal to our brain to help it reach homeostasis. This is the only product in the world that relies on the neurohaptic system that every single one of us has to optimize our neurology and optimize our health. Today, with the help of Dr. Mark DeBrincat, our VP of Clinical Strategy, we're going to be using an FDA-cleared 19-channel EEG headset, as well as FDA-cleared software to visualize, record, and show the impact that our technology has on our neurology and our brains to help it reach optimal performance. What we want to show today is how the Harmony Neuro Patch helps that dysregulated yellow, blue, and red colors in the brain maps transform into that healthy green homeostasis neurology that is the foundation of health and wellness. So what we're looking at right now is a neurological QEEG output of Mike's limbic system. The 19 channels are reading over 60,000 brainwaves a second and generating an output of neurofunction and brainwaves. What we want to see now is where that suboptimal red and yellow colors are. We want to see them turning as much as possible to a healthy green with the application of our HPT patch. So we've applied the patch now to Mike's arm, and within 10 seconds, you're seeing that predominant yellow and red become predominantly green. Just for clarification, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing in the world that has this output at this rate of speed without drugs, without chemicals, without electricity. That's the power of Vox HPT. So when we see a healthy green neurology, what we're looking at is a brain and a mind in homeostasis. It is operating in its optimal function. And this is so important. And this is why it's so important. So Vox Life HPT, as we demonstrated with our neuro patch, helps the central nervous system reach homeostasis in our neurology. And the reason this is so important for overall wellness and health is that neurology is the top of the pyramid of our physiological health and wellness paradigm. First is neurology at the very top, then there's chemistry, then there's biology, then there's physics and mechanics. Neurology will have an impact all the way through our entire physiology. Healthy neurology, healthy body, better wellness.
Let me tell you a little bit about the science behind it. Because the first obvious question, how would it work? The science goes back to 1939, and it's all Nobel Prize research, where two Columbia University scientists discovered that all atoms, including all the atoms within the cell of the human body, they send and receive what they call radio waves, what we know today as electromagnetic signals. So think about that. Every cell in the body is emitting and receiving electromagnetic signals. How does the brain communicate throughout the body? With these same signals. Then years later, two other Nobel Prize laureates, through the science called haptic perception. Haptic perception is how we as human beings can be able to interact with our environment through the sensations of our skin. What they discovered is that there are these ion channels in the skin tissue that detect vibration, texture, and pressure, transmitting them as electrical signals to the brain, where the information is processed and interpreted. By the way, all of our 5 sensory perceptions do the same thing. They interpret everything as electrical signals, and it's encoded into the brain. Now, to understand how this matters is we would have to think about how Braille works. Braille, which is what these raised dots on a surface that blind people use to read, and they pass their fingers across these dots. And if you've ever done that, you would be amazed at how could they even tell anything just by putting their fingers on the dots. What we don't recognize is that the dots are arranged in what they call tactile patterns. And when they put their fingers on the dots, these piezo ion channels can detect the vibration of the patterns, sends the information to the brain, to say whether it is a number, a letter, a symbol, a word, and that's how, so the skin is able to detect the vibration of the pattern and send a signal to the brain. Using this, this is the basis of which the technology is built on. So the patches, like the one I just showed you, they have these little ridges on them. It's like a pattern. There's no chemicals, nothing at all is in it or on it except engraved on it is a pattern. When that pattern goes onto the skin, it sends a signal to the brain, just like anything that touches the skin sends a signal to the brain. Like stick you with a pin, you say ouch, but you could only say ouch because the signal went to your brain first. So it sends a signal to the brain, and depending on the structure of the patch, the information is whether it's going to realign those waves of signals back into the normal balance. That is, in effect, how the patches work. After 15 years of research and development, what they call vibrotactile trigger technology, it has now become peer-reviewed and published science, where in some of the world's most prestigious journals, this is now accepted as legitimate bona fide science. And so much so that it's now beginning to attract the attention of some of the most brilliant minds around the world, where you could now have an effect on the body without actually introducing any substances, any drugs, and you can help bring the body back to more optimal function without doubt. No, that's a brand new way, a brand new approach, a brand new way of even thinking about restoring physical well-being. So in speaking to a person a couple of days ago who was a practitioner, and I said, it's a very different approach. I was telling them about this, and they said, what's different about it? I said, well, imagine a patient comes into your office and he has complaints, and there's a particular condition that they're dealing with. Imagine being able to help to restore health to that patient without addressing the illness at all. And he said, that doesn't even make sense. I said, exactly, that's the approach. You do not address the symptoms, you do not even address the illness. How are you going to fix it? We address the very mechanism that addresses the illness. Because it all begins in the brain. There is no dysfunction that happens with a biological system or an organ system without its programming first becoming disrupted. This is medically known. It's just that we have no approach of how to restore the signaling from the brain to the biology in order for it to optimize its function. We know that it's all disrupted. We know through psychoneuroimmunology, it's all disrupted signals, but we don't know how to fix it. Imagine now that the body with its own innate capacity, that we could actually send a signal to the brain for it to just retune itself to the right signal. Now it can send the information. So the very mechanism that does the fixing, we're helping to repair that. We don't have to worry. It's the body's innate intelligence, which built and runs everything, that's doing it. It's just coming right back online and more optimal in its function. We never need to know. The body knows better than any doctor what goes wrong, when it goes wrong, and how to fix it. And if it doesn't, it's not the signal is not coming through. It's being obstructed. But now there is a way, and this is really mind-blowing. Now there is a way that we could actually help to harness mind-body balance in a way that has never been done before without introducing anything that's toxic to the body. And it's now published science, so it's all bona fide. In fact, last year, at global symposiums where some of the greatest minds come together from around the World Congress of Psychiatry, the European Sleep Research Society, the World Congress on Pain. Last year, the Superpatch company was invited to present their innovation and their technology because it's beginning to attract attention of how something like this is even possible without introducing anything into the body. This is bridging a natural capacity that we have to help our bodies to function better. But I want to just pull us back from, this is not about just your body feeling better. This is about your mind working better and the far-reaching implications of what that means for us. This is unlocking the potential within in a very natural way, as natural as putting on a pair of glasses. So like Braille, the tactile patterns on each super patch send sensory vibrations as electrical signals to the brain, targeting the repair and the rebalancing of neural pathways that are linked to specific physical and emotional functions. This restores that alignment, and the result is more optimal physiological function and more optimal psychological function. This is it's simple, but it's a lot to swallow at the same time. The company has developed 12 primary super patches that deal with different aspects of imbalances. And you can use them individually, you can use them collectively in different combinations to affect different things. But it's not just, I like to keep repeating it because it's worth repeating that. It's not just enhancing physiological function and your body working better. It's mind-body balance where the very things that has been getting in the way of us trying to live a better life, and we've all taken on courses, and we've read books, and we've been to seminars, and we've been to workshops on how to change our mindsets and how to develop new traits of habits, how we can learn to be persistent and consistent and in life, and we struggle with all of that. Now it becomes less of a struggle because there's much better balance. So these are 100% drug-free. They're FDA registered, not FDA approved, because there's no ingestion of any substances, but they're FDA registered as being very safe. They enhance physical and mental well-being. They're backed by research, proven by science, very effective, almost immediate results. It addresses the biggest needs in health and wellness and performance, and by extension, addresses how we manage life in a whole new way. There are no contraindications. So whether you're on any kind of medication, because there are no ingredients, there's no contraindications with it. There's no allergic reactions in terms of any internal allergies. And because it's non-invasive, it's completely safe. It's easy to use. You just patch and you live and you begin to harness your life in a new and better way. It's safe for everyone, including children, the elderly, and it's surprisingly affordable. The key to healthy neurology is once we can maintain that, it's not just better well-being, it's also the prevention of disease. You don't just want your body to function better. But when you start to bring neurology into balance, which in effect you're now enhancing the programs that runs everything optimally. It is the programming, the pre-installed programming that's running everything. We are now bringing that more online. We are now tuning the dial right onto the frequency, whereas before, because of our lifestyles, we throw the signal off, and so the signal is not clear. We're bringing that back online, more optimal function. And as we use it consistently over time, as the brain goes through what they call neuroplasticity, where it begins to rewire itself to the new balance, then we start to experience a different sense of well-being. Now we can cross that bridge. That has been a struggle before, to be able to harness our well-being physically, mentally, even and spiritually. So a healthy neurology is also the key to living a disease-free life. These are some of the patches. I'm just going to run through them with you. The one that they demonstrated, the Liberty patch, if all they had was just this, that brings your brain into homeostasis, that simply means that the different pathways or the different regions of your brain, they start to speak to each other more coherently. Your brain becomes more orderly in its function. And that translates into the more that happens, the more orderly our biological systems coordinate as well. So you will see changes in your strength, improved balance and stability almost instantly, within a matter of seconds. It's anti-aging, it reduces inflammation, better range of motion. Let me just say something about this particular patch. 34 years ago, I had a surgery on my cardiac sphincter, the sphincter muscle at the top of my stomach. It opens when food is going in and it closes that function became impaired where the muscle locked up and it wouldn't open. So no water or no food, nothing could get into my stomach. And I just started losing weight because I could get no nutrition into my body. The solution that the doctors cannot explain then, and at that point, I couldn't explain now, I couldn't explain then either. I understand it now, but the solution for me not starving to death was to go in and take that muscle and cut it and let it pop open. But I no longer have the use of this muscle, so that when I eat food, there's no muscle to close the gap. So if I were to eat and did a handstand, it will roll right back out of my stomach because that muscle doesn't work anymore. Over the years, that because the body is self-adapting and self-healing, that cut that they put that popped the muscle open, it closed back in. And the muscle closed itself right back in, and it left an opening of 5 millimeters. 5 millimeters is the size of a pencil, the circumference of a pencil, which is that small. So my muscle is locked. For the last 20 odd years, it's been locked at just that. So people who know me, they'll see that when I'm eating, I do this or I do this because I'm helping the food to get. I have to chew my food so well because it has to fit through a very tiny space because the muscle doesn't open or close. So I have to chew, and if I were to make a mistake and swallow a big chunk of food and it blocks that, I have to go and throw it up so that's been going on for the last 20 years. Since I've been using this is 3 months now. Well, it's a little bit more than 3 months. I've been using this Liberty patch. This muscle has started functioning better now. Just by that. Through the use of that, because it's affecting the vagus nerve. And that's muscle, even though it was slit through surgery and will have scar tissue, it's now beginning to function again with this. To me, that is priceless. Anyway, that's the Liberty patch. If that's the only patch they had, it would improve and enhance your life because of how it balances the whole function of the brain. You have issues sleeping, the REM patch, absolutely wonderful for those who have not known what a good night's sleep is. This is a patch that I think we all need because we generally don't respond to stress in the most appropriate of ways. Our autonomic nervous system, which governs a lot of what's happening in our bodies right now, is always in high rev. According to research, most of us, we are always in overdrive. That system, you want to keep that more regulated, more calm. You want to be able to manage stress better. And so your systems will be more efficient in how they function. You put this on, and in a matter of minutes, you start to feel that calmness and that centeredness. And this, I think, is you never leave home without this particular patch. Defend, you talk about immune support. You talk about your immune system being modulated to function at its highest levels. I have not seen anything that impacts immune function where your body repairs and deals with flus and viruses in the way how this does, and in the speed and the rate in which it happens. For pain, there's the Freedom Patch, deals with all manner of pain. For those who are athletic, into sports, you're into the gym, you want to optimize your athletic performance, I can tell you, everybody that uses this says the same thing. You definitely feel the difference in your strength, in your power, your stamina, your faster recovery after you had a grueling game or a workout, and you don't have to wear it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and a month for it to begin to work. When you get into the gym, you put it on and it starts working right away. That's the kind of, this is neurology straight to physiology. This has become one of my favorite patches as well. When I'm doing my research, my studies, you can clearly tell the difference in the sharpness. Multitasking almost feels like a singular task. We really don't recognize how far below our potential we really do function. For those who want to get off some of that extra weight and they're not able to get as much activity in, you can burn 25% more calories while you're sitting at your desk by using the Ignite patch. For us men who we get onto our more senior years and we tend to become low in that masculine function, this is going to help you. I think everybody should take the Lumi, not just for the luminescent glow of your complexion and healthier skin. I think everybody should take it because it also helps with your gastrointestinal tract, which I can tell you from clinical practice, most of us have issues with it. So that's something that we all should consider using. But this also works very well just for healthy skin generally. And for those who struggle with addictions and overcoming bad habits, even food addictions, you take this, it's going to help you to be able to. All habits are emotionally encoded in the brain. It regulates those emotional centers, and it gives you that ability to be able to overcome the habits. Joy, I don't think you need to even be in a depressive mood or feeling depressed to take this. Just taking this because it's balancing the pathways of the brain that maintains a more optimistic and positive mood, just taking it for that and making sure that that signaling is very clear and clear. It helps with just how you manage your day and how you manage your life. And then the most recent patch that they just added is energy. You do not need energy drinks when you're taking this that are toxic to your liver, to your brain, and to your kidneys. This is energy on demand. You just use this patch and you will have energy as you need it, and it's going to run you all throughout the day. The patches are simple to use, they're safe to use, they have been all tested. There's medically grade material. Each patch lasts for 24 hours. And they're supported by an advisory board of doctors that are constantly working with the research and development team in terms of real world efficacy of it. They're the ones that has made sure that's getting in to major centers around the world, to the symposiums, getting into the athletic arenas. I had the good pleasure of meeting Dr. Anna Toka, a brilliant colorectal surgeon, very down-to-earth lady, very smart when it comes to understanding this type of technology. These are brilliant people that we have supporting the development of the patch. I certainly believe that we have the best product in the world to enhance well-being, not just physical health, but well-being across the board. And we know we want to make it the best known. I have, along with others, have decided to join a cause and a mission to let everybody know about these patches, not just because the world is sick and getting sicker, but I understand that sickness and the illnesses, the pandemic of lifestyle diseases on the planet is as a result of mind-body imbalance. And I know that on the other flip side of that is that we're all struggling to try and make life work better. We're all struggling to make ends meet, and it is also the same key. So you're getting a dual effect here. You're being able to harness your life. You're being able to bridge the two sides of life, a better quality of life, a better standard of living, feeling better, functioning better, thinking better, living better. This is a bridge. This is a bridge like nothing else exists like it. And I want to encourage you to think about, that's the first thing you need to do, is that you need to try it. You need to feel the difference. You need to experience it. And if you work with it properly, and don't think of it, when I say properly, this is not a supplement or a medicine of a different sort. The patches do not address any illness. Because before the night is out, you probably will be saying, what patch do you have for this and what patch do you have for that? The patches do not address any illness at all. The patches address the neural balancing of the brain that governs how everything in the body works. The innate intelligence that runs the body determines how that plays out. Once there's a neural balance, the body takes care of itself. What patch do we have for this? We have a patch that will help to balance the neural pathways of the brain, bring the brain and the body back into balance. And the magic takes place all on its own. Why? Because it's pre-installed. It's genetically wired to do it. We don't have to know how to do it. We have to be responsible in helping it to function at its best. This is a bridge to do that and help us to walk into a different quality of life. You can access these online only through a Superpatch affiliate website. They're not available on retail platforms online. The The patches are globally protected in 186 countries. They're relatively inexpensive for a month's supply for what it will do for your life. That's one way. The other way that you can get it is if you, this may not be for everyone, but for those who are looking to enhance their financial futures, who are concerned about the way things are going economically in the world, because you know we cannot depend on social systems, pensions and social securities, etc. That's not going to keep us as we get older. We need to be able to position ourselves. Superpatch is offering people across the globe how they can have their own home-based business, but it's very different. It's a business, a globally scalable business like never before. It's very meaningful. I find it very rewarding, and it's very lucrative. For those who are interested in this, now if you go this way, you have the best of both worlds of how you can access the technology as part of your lifestyle. And it needs to become part of your lifestyle. It needs to become an accessory that you wear every day. Of course, you won't be wearing all the patches, but whatever you may need. For those who may be interested in this, on Monday evening, 7:30 to 8:30, for those in the Caribbean, 6:30 to 7:30, those here in North America, we're going to be going through the value of this. We're going to look at the aspects of this and what makes it so unique. We're going to look at the options that you may have if you're interested in how you can launch a global Superpatch business. We also made, that takes about 20 minutes of the hour, and we use the rest of the time to answer any questions that you may have had from tonight if you didn't get your questions answered by your host, and as well as to answer any questions related to the business, and that is on Monday evening. And so that is the overview of tonight. We get more interactive when it comes on Monday evening. And so for those of you who want to go a little bit further, we welcome you to join us at that point in time. And so I want to thank each and every person for taking the time, for being on the call tonight. I hope you would have heard something that could enrich your life, because as I mentioned in the beginning, whether it is physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, financially, you want to enhance your life, the key is right inside of here. The key is right inside of what we talked about. And that becomes clearer as we go through the workshops that will be following in the very near future. But this mind-body dissonance, or this mind-body imbalance that we all go through, and remember, it doesn't just happen, it happens because of how we interface with life, beginning with how we honor ourselves. So when we wake up tomorrow morning and we go about life, I want us, if we can be aware, and by the way, when you use the patches more, you start to become more self-aware. I want us to become aware of how often and how automatic we go against ourselves. How we are thinking one way, but we are doing something contrary. How we keep violating our own truth. And as long as we live that way, we'll always have this fracture. There will always be this mind-body dissonance. There will always be a struggle mentally, and there will always be a struggle emotionally. And that leads into struggles relationally, struggles financially, and struggles all. And how it begins to express itself: stress, emotional stress, and sickness and disease in the body. But it's all mind-body balance. Here we have a bridge that helps to bridge it and bring our lives back into a much better place. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for being on tonight. May God bless all of you. May you have a good night. May you have a great week ahead of you. Thank you.